everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is presented to you by LawSeco. So, today we will be discussing two articles. The first one is from The Hindu, which is titled as A Good Start. So, this article basically talks about the national policy on rare diseases, which tries to make it easier for the people who are suffering with rare diseases. So, in this, we will understand what do we mean by the rare diseases and what steps has the government taken for their rescue. The second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Why Forest Fires Break Out in the Spring and Why They Have Been So Frequent This Year. So, we will understand that which areas of India specifically are pertinent and are more prone to the forest fires. What are the basic causes of forest fires and what are the landmark challenges that we face in this direction? So before we move further, let's have a look at the Project Maverick, which is LawSeco's CLAT prep course, which is almost free. The reason being that it only costs rupees 100. So if you're preparing for CLAT 2021 or 2022, you can definitely enroll yourself for this course. The link to this course is available in the description box below. With this, let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's or day before yesterday's discussion. Dash would represent India at the World Cities Cultural Forum 2021. Your options are Bengaluru, Delhi, Chennai, or Pune. You can write down your answer in the comment section below. This is the descriptive question for the day. What do you know about the National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021? What are the limitations, if any? With this, let's start our discussion for the first article, which talks about the policy for rare diseases. So recently, the Center has notified the National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021, which ultimately provides financial support for one-time treatment of up to rupees 20 lakh. Now here, there are three important elements of this particular scheme. Firstly, that it is a kind of financial support. Secondly, it is for the one-time treatment of the rare diseases. And thirdly, what amount is available under this scheme or this policy is of rupees 20 lakhs. So here, one thing that needs to be understood here is that the rare diseases, as we will just discuss, I'll give you an explanation as to what do we mean and understand by the rare diseases. So here, those kinds of rare diseases which can be cured by one-time treatment. Let's say, for example, a single bone marrow transplant can help a person cure that particular rare disease. So that would be a kind of a rare disease that can be cured through one-time treatment. So this National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021 provides a financial support of rupees 20 lakhs for the treatment of such one-time disease or one-time treatment of this rare disease. Here, what we need to understand first before moving further in this discussion is that what do we understand by the rare diseases? So, if we try to define the rare diseases, so there is no one universally accepted definition of the rare diseases, but broadly, if we try to define the rare diseases, it is understood as that any disease that is infrequently occurring. Now, here, the word that is used is not frequently like the other diseases that maybe, maybe just let's say cancer or maybe any heart ailment or something. Rather, these diseases are infrequently occurring, which means that they are very rare. The name itself is suggesting that they do not occur very frequently. And if they are infrequently occurring in a population with three markers. So what are these three markers? Firstly, the total number of people who are suffering with this particular disease, which is generally very less. Then the prevalence of this particular disease, that how much or for how long or in how many people can this particular disease prevail. And thirdly, the availability of treatment options. A very good fact that I would like to tell you all here is that the rare diseases are many a times in common language also termed to be as orphan diseases. Now here, why is it actually called as the orphan disease? Is because these diseases are the ones where the research and development is very less. The reason being that there are very few people who are actually suffering from these kinds of diseases, and thus it does not really incentivize various agencies and medical institutions to put in their money and their efforts to research and to develop any kinds of cures for such diseases, because the return for these things is not really very practical and is not really very much high, due to which the availability of the treatment options in these diseases is very, very limited, and thus they are many a times called as the orphan diseases. So if we say how the World Health Organization defines the rare diseases, so it says that they have a frequency of less than 6.5 to 10 per 10,000 people. So if at all there is a complete population of 10,000 people, so there is only a good chance that 6.5, that is not even 7 completely, so 6 to 10 people out of 10,000 people would be suffering from a particular disease. And that is why, due to this low prevalence or due to this infrequent nature of the diseases, they are termed to be as rare diseases. Now, some examples of the rare diseases are like the inherited cancers, autoimmune disorders, congenital malformations. Then we have the Gaucher disease. Then we have this Hirschsprung's disease, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophies, etc. So these are mostly, like, here, please mark my words, that most of the rare diseases are genetic, but still it cannot be said being full-fledged or for a sure thing that all the rare diseases are genetic in nature. That means they come from our parents to the offsprings. So mostly they are, but many a times they can be developed due to some other functionings that take place in the internal body without any particular role of the genes or genetics. Now, since now we have understood what do we mean by the rare diseases, let's understand that what are the issues with the National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021. Now, the first and the foremost and the biggest issue that is there is that no funding has been allocated for the immediate and lifelong treatment needs for therapies that are already approved by the DCGI. All right. So, if we consider it over here, then here, as I just mentioned in the starting of this particular discussion, that National Policy for Rare Diseases 2021 provides financial support of rupees 20 lakhs for the one-time treatment of the rare diseases, which means that only those rare diseases that can be treated through one-time treatment. I gave you an example of, let's say maybe one-time bone marrow transplant. Like for example, thalassemia is one of the diseases, some forms of thalassemia that can be treated by one-time treatment. So, if at all, this is the kind of rare disease, so that would be covered under this policy. But other diseases which require lifelong care or even they require, long-term therapies or lifelong treatments, they have not been covered under this, and thus no funding has been provided by them. Then the cost to help the already diagnosed patients is around rupees 80 to 100 crores annually, which is huge. Definitely it is very huge, and it will have to be seen that how much is the government really able to cater to this particular financial need. And the center here is also a very good suggestion that has been given in, that the center, to actually meet these needs and to decrease the financial crunch that it might face in the coming future, the central can extend a cost sharing agreement with states. By that, it would mean that the entire burden of the payment of such treatments would not lie on the center alone, and the state can also, the states can also participate actively in sharing the cost of these particular fundings. So already this system has been taken up in the states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. So this was all for this particular article. There are some other examples of some rare diseases, like I just mentioned, thalassemia. Then we have the sickle cell anemia, which nowadays has become comparatively common as compared to maybe the other rare diseases. Then we have ataxia. Then we have lysosomal storage disorder, congenital insensitivity to pain. This is considered to be rarest of the rare diseases. What happens is, I'll give you a short description of this. That, like for example, we have a nerve cells, right? So our brain, it gives us stimulus whenever we feel pain. Now, feeling pain is also very important because it tells us that something is wrong at some particular part of our body. Maybe for example, if something heavy is just, it steps on our foot, all right? So only because we feel pain due to that, we we involuntarily try to save ourselves, and thus the body becomes into, or it makes a kind of self protective system. But if at all, just consider that you are not even able to feel pain, so how will you be able to save yourself? Once I was watching a documentary on this particular rare disease, and I saw that there was a little girl who was like 4 to 5 years old, who used to bite her own fingers because she could not feel the pain. She could not understand that this is something that is actually harming her. She just used to scratch her eyes, or even if at all she banged into something, she would never tell her parents because she did not ever understand that something is aching in her body. So that is why in the long run it becomes really difficult for the people to cope up with various things in the world because they're not able to feel the pain. So these are various kinds of the diseases that are there, the rare diseases, and that is why it is important that the government, specifically, because as I mentioned, that because the return in the financial terms is not huge in this area, the private sector does not really want to invest a lot in this particular direction. And that is why it shall be the duty of the state to invest more and more in the research and development, and also to help the people mostly the poor people who cannot really cope up with the fundings or the finances of these particular treatments. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the forest fires. So, Uttarakhand has witnessed over 1,000 incidents of forest fires in the last 6 months, and to our amaze, in just last 24 hours, 45 incidences of forest fires have been reported, in which 5 persons have been killed. And as if we talk about 2021, there have been forest fires in Himachal Pradesh, Nagaland, and on Manipur border, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, and in complete Odisha as well. So, if we talk about that, what is the impact of the forest fires? So in 2019, 21% of 21.67% of India, which is identified as forest. So in 2019, due to this, what happens basically is that the forest cover also reduces. So this is according to this India State of Forest report. And then the forest of Northeast and Central India are the most vulnerable areas to the forest fires. Now, what causes the forest fires? We'll just deal after we are done with this particular impact. And then what are the challenges also we'll study. So here, the areas of Assam, Mizoram, and Tripura fall in the extremely prone area. And Andhra Pradesh, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, some parts of Mizoram, Nagaland, Odisha, Maharashtra, Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh fall in very highly prone area. So the highly prone and moderately prone, they make up about 26.2% of the total forest cover, which is very significant. See, had it been only maybe a percent or two of the entire forest cover, then we might not be that concerned that, okay, fine, even if the forest fires are happening, then it's fine. It's just, system of the nature, and it just happens every time in the month of March and April, specifically in India. But what we need to be concerned about is that 26.2% of the total forest cover of our country is in highly or moderately prone area, which is prone to the forest fires. And it is a high reason of concern also because it destroys the animal habitat and flora and fauna as well. With this, let's understand that what actually causes the forest fires. See, generally, forest fires are not something that we should always be worried about. It is a natural phenomena, and many a times when the air becomes dry, when there has been, before the spring season, there are a lot of dry leaves, dry wood sticks, and small, such materials available in the forest area. And due to even a small friction or due to just one spark, a forest fire can be raged. But frequent forest fires or forest fires that were so unprecedented in the past, but now they are occurring very frequently, definitely are a reason to worry. Now, the reason why the forest fires have become so frequent in these years, as we know that the Amazon forest fire, it has been so much into news into the last 2 years, and also the bushfire which took place in Australia, they also took up the attention of the entire world. So what has happened is that various human and anthropogenic activities which have finally led to climate change have added a huge amount of the frequency to the forest fires, because what is happening is that due to our activities, the forests are drying up very frequently, the rivers are not able to fulfill themselves, the groundwater is not available, which is up to the mark. Also, due to high depletion of the forest is not able to rejuvenate itself, and thus the forests are becoming drier and drier day by day. So in India, the forest fires are commonly reported in the month of March and April, where the ground has large quantities of dry woods, logs, dead leaves, stumps, dry grass, and weeds, and the lack of soil moisture adds it to further enhance this particular problem. So if imagine if there is good amount of moisture in the soil, so if at all something dry would fall on the soil, it would become moist because of the moisture of the soil. But due to the loosening of the moisture in the soil, or even the deteriorating situation of the groundwater level under the soil, what is happening is that even the land and the soil is becoming very dry, due to which the dry leaves or woods that fall on the ground, they tend to remain dry for a longer period of time, and thus there is a greater chance of them catching up fire. And thus extreme heat and dryness, friction created by rubbing of the branches, etc., these are the factors that initiate the fires. Now, here are various challenges also that we face if at all we try to control these forest fires. Firstly, the locality of the forest. Now, what happens is that many a times these forests are also, they're located at such areas where it is not humanly very much possible for us or any kinds of such rescue teams to get into or to deal with these forest fires. So all that is left is to, tackle these situations via means of aerial vehicles like the helicopters. So due to this, it becomes really difficult, due to the terrain, that it becomes really difficult for the authorities to control these forest fires well within time. Secondly, the difficulty in timely mobilization of the forest staff, fuel, equipment, and shortage of the staffs. Now, logistics and lack of infrastructure has always been a problem for almost all the things in the country. So, similarly, here also, many a times the forest staff is not available in time. Many a times, various equipments are not available with them, due to which the situation further deteriorates. And in 2004, the Forest Survey of India developed the Forest Fire Alert System to monitor fires in the real time. So, this was all for the day. We hope it was a good and informative session for you all. Stay tuned with Lost Eco for such more sessions to come, and do subscribe to our channel to never miss an update.